Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here. This week on the Kayak Fishing Show Live, I was joined by my longtime friend and the editor of Kayak Angler Magazine, Ric Burnley. We talked about everything old in kayak fishing, everything we think is going to be coming up in kayak fishing, and just a lot about kayak fishing. So stick around. I think you'll enjoy this show. Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here, and welcome to the Kayak Fishing Show Live, brought to you, as always, by Ballast Point Brewing Company. We are having a regular old Sultan today. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. First off, wanted to send out our best wishes to everybody up there in a little bit north of us here. There's some raging fires going on. It seems like every time we get a Santa Ana wind, somebody decides to go out and start a fire. And there's some pretty major fires going on up north. So we're wishing the best to all of our friends up there. Another thing is, as a reminder to participate in the conversation on this show, if you want us to see your questions, answer any questions, you need to be watching on the Jim Sammons page. We're still having some technical issues with connecting these videos to the Kayak Fishing Show page. So if you want to participate, if you want to ask us questions, make sure you're watching on the Jim Sammons page. The link is in the video description. Before I get to our guest, Ric Burnley from Kayak Angler Magazine, we posted a new video up on our YouTube channel, Kayak Fishing Tales, today. Now, supposedly with BeLive, in the past when we would share a video, we'd show videos or anything, there was no audio. They said they've changed that, but I haven't seen that. So I just want to play a little bit of this video for you really quick, just to see if you guys are hearing it. So please give me a thumbs up or give a comment that you are hearing the audio from this video. So I'm going to go ahead and start it here.
Rod tip down. Don't do a whole lot of high sticking. If this changes direction on you, just keep that rod low. It'll push the boat around. I'm going to get him close enough so I can gaff him. I'm going to keep this guy because I saw him come up early. He was bleeding pretty good. And they seem to have a really good talent. Right when they come up next to you, they go down. So is anybody hearing this? You guys hearing the audio from that YouTube video right now? I'm just kind of curious about if things working right. Strong fish. Whew, got him in color now. It's right under my boat. But
this was in Louisiana, fishing with Mexican Gulf Fishing Company.
Big fish like that, the last 10 feet's always the hardest 10 feet of the whole fight.
This sounds funky.
One of the highlights from the trip was watching Jim land that last yellowfin tuna. He battled that tuna, it seemed like, forever, but he never gave up. He kept pushing, and finally landed that fish. And what a beautiful fish that was. And I know he was extremely excited to get that one to the boat.
So a nice yellowfin tuna there. Success.
We don't kill a
I'll
lot
drop
of
that
fish,
down now. Like I said, my main concern was letting you guys let me know if you're hearing it. Stop that so I'm not listening to it anymore. So yeah, just again, if you want to participate in the conversation, make sure you're watching on the Jim Sammons page. Go ahead and shoot us some questions. I'm like I said, we got Ric Burnley on here. He is the editor of Kayak Angler Magazine. I've seen this magazine progress into a very high quality magazine. It's the longest running kayak fishing specific magazine, that's for sure. Our good friend Paul Leibowitz was a former editor of it, and Rick took over for him some years ago and has been doing a great job. And if you're not getting it, maybe you'll have a chance to win a subscription to it, because Rick has offered to give away a couple subscriptions to the magazine. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring Rick up into this lobby or up into the screen with me. Rick, how are you?
I'm doing good, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. We fished together a long, long time ago, and we've known each other quite a while. You've been involved in kayak fishing for quite a long time now, and you're still an old school guy like me that likes to paddle.
Yeah. You did the one of the reviews on my book when it came out, Complete Kayak Fisherman, and that was like 2006. So, and I know we knew each other before then. You were a big help on that book, and you actually contributed to it too. So, that puts us back there a ways, huh? Historical figures.
Yeah. Well, it just shows you that, the people who are passionate about the sport tend to stick around it. It's just like, it's not something that you just give up. It's too fun. I'm going to say hello to a couple people who are watching. Serge from Ottawa, thanks for watching, man. Richard, yeah, I am seeing your comments, so thank you for being here. John says, nice tuna. Thanks, buddy. And Richard loves the magazine. So
thanks, Richard.
Very cool. Let me see if I can bring these things up so I can actually see them. So, Rick, I say, sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. I accidentally dropped Rick off the screen. You're back.
I'm back.
I don't know. I mean, we can cover any kind of thing. So that's why I'm hoping we'll get some good questions here because, you have been involved in the sport for such a long time. I mean, we just had a conversation on the phone a week or so ago talking about different stuff. And I wouldn't mind touching base on some of that. Specifically, I mean, having been in the sport a long time, like myself, what are some of the bigger changes that you've seen overall? I mean, as far as what is helping this sport grow?
Well, we were talking about, we were talking for a couple of projects I was working on for the next issue of Kayak Angler and for our Paddling Buyer's Guide. One was on trends in the sport. And we've talked to industry people before about trends and such. And I thought it'd be good this year to talk to anglers, about trends, in kayak fishing, because they're the ones, who actually are the end user or the end, recipient of whatever trends are going on. And, so I got in touch with some, some big names in the sport. People have been around for a long time. You, Kevin, Chad, Hoover, and some others. And, one of the things, I think it was Kevin was pointing out with Kevin Whitley was pointing out is that, the kind of the invention of the all around, stand up capable, bass fishing, platform, is a big, a big change in the sport. I just actually sold yesterday one of my old Prowler 15s, old school original, sit in the water Prowler 15s, and man, it was definitely hard to see it go, because you'll never see probably another kayak like that. Even the newer generations, they certainly are a lot more stable, a lot wider. That thing was a speed demon. I've still got another one, so that's why I was able to let this one go.
I'm biased. I did help design that boat. That was one of the very first ones that we worked on with Ocean Kayak, and it surfed really well. Handled surf just wonderful.
Yeah.
I sometimes, even going farther back, talk about missing a boat. I wish I had held on to at least one Scupper Pro.
Yeah, you always say that, and I respect that too. Yeah.
The only problem is I don't think I could fit my ass in it. I've gotten a little bit bigger, and that was a very tight, narrow seat.
Yeah.
But man, what a great paddle.
And that's the thing about the all around, bass boat that you see now, so popular, and so many different styles and models and, configurations and price points now and everything too. And that just brings so many more anglers into the sport, with different size asses, and, really makes it not, I mean, that 15 is a great boat, but I've put people in it and they've gone over. I've had, had people look at it and go, and so, but now the boats that, are so much more user friendly, and a big part of that is, kind of changing the complete mentality of your design from, performance to, ergonomics, I guess, ease of use and, user friendliness and looking at, the sport in a different way is like, people need something they can fish out of, not necessarily have to paddle hundreds of miles, because people are finding fishing opportunities, so close and, within the range of these boats. And anyway, they're just so user friendly, and that really changed, I think, the whole and made the sport what it is today, of course.
There really is a boat now for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, like I said, I've been guiding for a long time, and back in the day, all I had was Scupper Pros and then Tridents and that sort of thing. And you would get a client show up and you're just like, oh no, this guy is not the right guy for these boats. And now there literally is a kayak for everyone. Jackson just came out with the new big rig FD HD, so
FD HD too.
But I mean, I've always said about that, but it's like, I can stand up and dance on that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so insanely stable. It's one of those, you can stand on one side of it and it's still not going over. And then to the next step, which isn't a kayak, is that blue sky.
Right.
And I think, as we were talking about the other day, I think that's just something that maybe it will open the doors for people who had said before, like, there's no way I'm fishing in a kayak.
Right.
It's not going to work for my back. It's not going to work for what I want to do. It's not stable enough, whatever. Well, you get a boat like that, which you're sitting up just as high as I am in this chair at my desk, and is insanely stable and can be motorized or whatever else. And yeah, no, it's not a kayak, but it's another way to get people on the water.
Exactly. And that would never have been probably possible if it hadn't been for the developments in kayak fishing in the first place. I mean, you start to look at some of these offshoot boats, and now another one of the trends that people were talking about was, now really designing boats specifically for, adding motors to, because that takes a completely different hull design than, a paddling boat for sure, and even a pedal boat. And they certainly designed boats around the pedals, that aren't meant to be paddled necessarily. And so, a lot of people are talking, you're starting to see a little bit of it now too, with the Feel Free and their Overdrive and Jackson and the FD HD, boats that are designed, and the Blue Sky, of course, too, and just to be operated with an alternative power source.
Right, and like I said, it just opened the doors for that many more people who wouldn't necessarily get into a kayak or get into having to paddle, maybe because of limitations or just straight up strength or comfort or whatever. So it's really cool to see that. I mean, it's certainly you see a Hobie Pro Angler. I don't want to have to paddle that boat.
Right.
That's a beast to paddle. So to have that kind of a vessel that can be moved through the water with a pedal drive or other systems, it gives people that great stand up, stable platform. And like you were saying, actually, adding that whole stand up ability, it's actually pretty funny to me because back in the day, people were like, well, can you stand in it? Can you stand in it? It's like, no, I don't want to stand in it. I want to be able to come from where it's at.
Right.
But now it has become such a big part of it, is particularly in the bass fishing and fishing the flats, where it is being able to stand up is such a huge advantage.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying, actually, I think your contribution to the trends column was, you were saying the seat, is a big improvement, in the stadium seat, kind of concept, change things as well for sure. Again, just getting so many more people into the boat.
Well, yeah, I mean, those seats made such a difference to me. And we had the discussion, but basically the bottom line is, I came from being in, these really narrow Scupper Pros and all that, which were very form fitting, if you will. I mean, they kind of hugged your butt and gave you a lot of support. As the boats got bigger and wider, the seats got flatter and you no longer had that support. And I went from being able to spend 12 hours in a Scupper Pro to being kind of hurting by 5 hours. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I need to be off of this thing. And once I joined Jackson and got into the elevated seat, it went back to being able to stay all day in that seat and not have a problem, because they are that much more comfortable. I mean, I hate Game Changer, but for me, that was a game changer just in the fact that it allowed me to be on the water longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you see the idea, even all across all the lines, all the different companies are using it and have coming up with their own, concept on it. But yeah, definitely gets a lot more people in the boat. People always say, oh, so why do I want more people in kayaks? Then next time I go to my fishing hole, there's going to be 10 guys in kayaks there instead of just me and my buddy, Right. But, we have power in numbers as kayak anglers, and the more people we bring on, and the more we create consistency across the sport, and spread the word, then when it comes time to slice up the regulations pie or the access pie or whatever, we'll have hopefully a bigger voice in that discussion. This is a democracy, so it's powered by numbers, right?
It just started to get really hot in my office. I had to stand up and turn on the fan.
Well, you can take your shirt off if you have to or something.
Nobody wants to see that.
But yeah, so the more the merrier, the more, and you can always, I never fish around anybody else. I don't know. I don't see anybody else out in the water where I fish.
Well, that's because you go on stealth missions in the middle of the night.
Well,
Well, like everybody knows La Jolla. It's not a secret spot. The guys who fish it a lot are the guys who catch a lot of fish.
And that's a thing too. Yeah.
You're certainly not hiding anybody. It is the spot. Everybody launches from the same place.
Right.
So it's just a matter of putting in your time. Tom Riley says he has a few Scupper pros. He's up here.
Make a deal, make an offer.
Dave Fowler says, hope Santa brings me a magazine subscription in my stocking this year.
I can give you Santa's address and website if you'd like. So
there you go.
Kayakangler.com. That's Santa answers the emails
there. John had a question for you and I'll let you answer it first. What was it that got you into kayak fishing? Says, for me, it was an economic way to get on the water, which turned into loving it and eventually opening a kayak fishing and tackle shop. Well, that's very cool.
Jim and I were just talking before, about where you were saying about how the passion, shows up in people, and how, if it's the right person, it really it clicks for some reason, like there, end up opening a tackle shop. Thank goodness I didn't ever go that far. I always say if you hate fishing, you should open up a tackle shop, because you'll never see the water again. Right. But, for me, I grew up fishing fish my whole life. My dad was a guide. Charter boat captain and a guide, and he was also an outdoor writer and editor of a fishing magazine. So chip off the old block. But and I live in Virginia Beach, which is a great fishing destination, offshore, inshore, from shore, whatever. A million ways to fish, 24 hours a day. And so my dad had a boat. I fished with him all the time, and then he moved and took the boat with him. And, I was left in Virginia Beach. Of course, I was older. He didn't leave me as a child. I had graduated from college and such by then. But anyway, so I was kind of abandoned on shore. And I'm a big surf fisherman too, and love it, and spent a few years doing that. But then that was right around the time that kayak fishing was really starting to, take off and become a thing. And Corey Ruth was doing a like intro talk down at our local paddle shop, Wild River Outfitters, and I went down to check it out because I was also starting to do some writing to make ends meet. I had a new family and the rest, and so I went down there to see what it was all about, and ended up contacting Hobie, and they sent me an old school Outback Hank Parker edition.
Oh, nice.
Which no disrespect to Hobie, I tore up in about like 30 minutes, but no, they last a little longer than that. But that got me into it, and seeing the possibilities. And then I got that Prowler 15, and for the kind of open water fishing we do here, that was just a perfect platform. And since I had already had experience fishing for big red drum and big striped bass and flounder, and fishing the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel and those kinds of things, I just tried to figure out ways I could take that kayak and go to the same places and do the same thing. And about that time, I ran into Kayak Kevin Whitley, and he had a paddling background, but not much fishing, but he was, into fishing. But anyway, and I had the fishing background, was looking for somebody who could paddle some miles. And so it was kind of like, two peas in a pod kind of thing. And, the rest was kind of history. And we started, then I started writing the book, and we started knocking off species that, I had targeted in the boat, big red drum from the shoals of the Eastern Shore, big striped bass, you fishing the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and all these different fisheries. And the rest was history. So
well, you've got some great guys out there. Like you said, Corey Ruth, Kevin, Rob Choi, Lee. It's such a great group of guys. That trip I did out there the first time where we fished the
concrete ships. Yep.
Just such a solid group of people that are still, all of them are still involved in the sport, and that was 12 years ago. Now, yeah, like you say, when you get that passion, when it clicks, it clicks, and then so for people who it clicks with, this is a very dangerous place to live. And just like San Diego, I always tell people that that's one of the other places in the world that I can see myself living, because, there's so many different opportunities, and you can always push the boundaries. There's always a way to redefine something new, target a new species. And as too, year by year, the species change. We used to catch the heck out of striped bass. We don't hardly see any anymore. Now we've got all these big red drum, that we didn't have 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, so you always have to adapt to whatever, the conditions Mother Nature throws you. And so for people that like that kind of challenge, there's no better place to be. And also the 24-hour aspect of it, we can go out in the middle of the night. I would not want to live a place where I couldn't fish all night long too, because daylight savings time now, I have no time after my day job as a teacher. So, it's all night fishing pretty much. Right. And where I am, we have a year-round fishery. There is always something to go fishing for here, and not having to freeze your tail off. I think Kiptic Peak was still one of the coldest shoots. So freezing. Chesapeake Bay in December.
Yeah.
That was freezing, and you're not moving.
That's the worst part.
Concrete ships.
Yeah, it's like deer hunting.
The ship soaking an eel.
Yeah, it's like deer hunting. You're just sitting there freezing to death.
Randy has a question. What's the best piece of equipment other than a PFD you'd recommend for a new kayak fisherman? Again, Rick, I'll let you take that, and I'll throw in mine after you say something.
Well, PFD, of course. Well, another thing, actually, Jim, you put me on many years ago. I sent you some pictures of fish I caught. And the first thing you said was, "You're not using a carbon fiber paddle?" And I was like, I don't need no stinking carbon fiber paddle. But that planted the worm in my head, and I was like, maybe I need a carbon fiber paddle. And I tell you, once you get one, you just never go back. And it's the most important piece of equipment that I have on the boat. And I'm not saying, of course, you have to have a paddle, but, really upgrading your paddle, the best one that you can get, especially if you're going to be a paddle fisherman, that's your motor, that's your pry bar, that's your push pole, it's your anchor, it's your, I've had to beat wildlife at bat, it's your personal defense weapon. It's, it's so many different things. And, having a good paddle that's super light, super stiff. This year I've transitioned. Another article I have to talk about a little bit later is the one that we're doing for Kayak Angler on old guy hacks, I'm calling it. But I've had to change my paddle over the last year and a half just to I don't have the power I used to, or the endurance I used to. And I used to use a big blade, because I liked, and especially on that old Prowler 15, I'm a smaller guy, so I liked having the extra power, big blade, and especially on that faster boat. But I moved up to the Trident 13, and I needed a smaller, more like touring blade, right, because the boat's heavier and wider and not as fast, and it was beating me up, So I went through a couple different blades, and I've just started using the bending or Aquabound Tango, and it's a new design for them, and it's a hybrid between a touring blade and a high angle blade, but probably a little bit more volume, so I still have a little bit more speed. I was using a really low angle blade, and it was great because I could go all day and I felt great. But it, when the current would kick up or the wind would kick up, it was like, slow boat to China back to the beach. Right. And so this one here I'm pretty happy with it so far. And, and that's the thing too, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 different paddles before you find the right one. To settle with, and but that would be definitely my thing. That first thing I would upgrade.
Yeah, I would.
Your answer?
Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, you did. I would definitely for a paddling kayak fisherman, don't go cheap on the paddle. Like you said, just buy the best one you can afford, and getting into carbon fiber is night and day. And then for me, it was taking that next step and going to the Callista touring style blade, but it's a foam core blade. So those blades are buoyant in the water. So they have a very light and lively feel. If you are not a paddling kayak fisherman, I guess we could throw out a different answer. Safety wise, a VHF radio, a personal locator beacon. Most of the stuff I would say that you really need is, that safety stuff that you should always have on your boat. These new personal locator beacons, the ACRs, they're tiny. It's the size of it's smaller than this phone. So I just have it on my PFD all the time, and they work so well as that last ditch resource if you ran into trouble. And, unfortunately, people do run into trouble. And that'll actually bring up a subject. We're talking about PFDs and that sort of thing. I've been on a mission about PFDs for a very long time, about getting people to wear them all the time. Kayak Fishing Magazine, I told them they should institute a rule that they do not publish any photos of people without PFDs on. And they shut me down. They're like, no, that's part of the world of kayak fishing. Some people wear them, some people don't. We're not going to hold people out and not publish photos. If it's a newsworthy story, it's a newsworthy story. But unfortunately, people do die doing this. And like I said, so, I'm very adamant about people wearing the PFDs. Now, what is Kayak Angler's stance on that as far as publishing photos of people not wearing a PFD? Where do you guys stand?
Well, we've been partnering with the Wear It campaign, in the U.S. Coast Guard, and to spread the word that we are 100% PFDs in the magazine, much to the difficulty of an editor sometimes when you have this great picture, and they're not wearing a PFD, but and of course, we live in the real world as well. We realize that not everybody wears one, not all the time is even appropriate for one, maybe, everybody's going to have their own choices about what they do. But I think promoting, people wearing it, and it becomes second nature to people. And I'm really surprised because I remember when I first started doing this and all the pictures that I would get from our readers, because we have the CPR pages in the magazine with reader photos. And, we would always get photos without PFDs, and we even ran a contest and still run a contest where, we pick one angler wearing a PFD and give them a free inflatable Mustang PFD. And now I hardly, get any photos where anglers don't have PFDs on. And, that's a refreshing thing to see, because I think it's become a second nature to people. And it's like wearing your seatbelt when you get in the car. I think most people, do that without even the annoying buzzing bell and lights and everything else. So that's a good thing to see. I think by publishing photos and only using photos, it, just gets people, clicks it into their heads, so that they're more conditioned to wear one, and, but not making a judgment on folks that don't, for sure.
Yeah. Well, for me, the key there is, try some different ones on, just like you're saying, the paddle, you got to find the right paddle. You got to find the right PFD, find one that you're comfortable in, make a commitment to wearing it. Once you've made a commitment to wearing it, and it is one that you're comfortable in, then after time, it feels weird not having one on. When I sit in my kayak and I don't have a PFD on, it's just like, wow, this doesn't feel right. So, and there are options out there. I'm not a huge fan of the inflatables, but for people in the really, really hot areas, maybe that's an option that's going to get them in a PFD, and it's better to have one than none.
The technology now in PFDs almost makes it like there's no excuse not to wear one. There's so many different types, like you were saying, one for everybody, but these folks are using foam now that like folds and melts into your body after you wear it for a while, and it shapes to fit you. And then the waffling and the like the egg crate foam that they have that keeps the air circulating, and some of these inflatable PFDs are just as reliable as your your foam PFDs. So there's one out there for everybody.
Yeah. Just make sure you practice getting back in your kayak with the PFD on.
Yeah, another important thing. So many stories of people that fall out and they can't get back in. They never practiced it before, and there's tools and things that you can use to help you get back into the kayak. But if you don't have it, of course, it's not going to be
the safety step for somebody who just doesn't have the upper body strength to get themselves in is a great one. But again, it should be second nature. You should know the second you hit the water, you should know exactly what you're doing and be back out of that. It shouldn't take you forever to get situated. And I think that's where a lot of people run into problems. They get fatigued. I actually had a client come out and experience. I was like an experienced kayak angler. Came out to come fishing with me, fell off the kayak with the hatch open, rolled it, filled it full of water. Thankfully, I carry a bilge pump with me, and we were able to get him out. He had no clue how to do a self-rescue. And we were out off the kelp in La Jolla. And it's like, don't tell me you're an experienced kayak fisherman if you don't know how to self-rescue. Jeremy said something he thinks people should bring with them, a pair of side cutters if you hook yourself. A river knife comes in handy too. Yeah, definitely a good pair of strong dikes, lineman's pliers, or I even have a small pair of bolt cutters. For those big hooks, it makes a huge difference. I've always got those in my tackle box because, you fish enough, you are going to get a hook in you. It's not if, it is definitely when.
Gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about that. Thinking about getting a hook in yourself. I talk about it. Let's move on. Next topic. But safety equipment. Too, as you were saying, I've got one of those ACR personal located beacons. I also have their I think it's the Firefly strobe light that they have. I've almost been run over several times. Whistle, absolutely necessary. A compass. So many people rely on their GPS or their phone or what have you, and compass always works, and I always carry one with me.
Yeah,
because you never know when the fog's going to roll in or whatever happens.
Yeah, I have a story about that. I was a couple miles offshore in La Jolla, and I happened to stumble across another guy on the water in the dense fog, and he literally goes to me, "So Jim, the beach is that way, right?" and I replied, I go, "Well, I'm sure there is a beach."
Right.
You may be in Hawaii before you hit it. He was 180 degrees off. He had no clue where he was or which direction to go because there was no wind, heavy fog, zero swell.
Yeah.
So you didn't have any kind of sensation of what way. And fog is so disorienting anyway. Yeah. And I've brought this up on this show before is what I've discovered now that my wife and I have a boat and we go out in the boat to La Jolla oftentimes. I came to realize how invisible kayaks are.
Mm-hmm.
So many of them are these dull colors, gray, tan, and they're out there in the fog or in the dark. They don't have a light on. They don't have a headlight, a Visi carbon light. Mm-hmm. They're not wearing a PFD. All of a sudden this kayak just emerges out of the fog. It's like, good thing I was like creeping along because it does make it very hard to see anybody. Lee Parker says, Rick, sitting here at ARC with Kevin right now, watching the show. Oh, he remembers the first years of kayak fishing with you. He also that week at Kip to Peak Jim and crew.
I'm glad he still remembers all that stuff.
Yeah, we're getting old. We don't necessarily remember everything.
Yeah. Those were the days for sure.
So what do you see? What do you see coming up in kayak fishing that's going to be the next thing?
Well, again, that was another one of the questions that we were talking about for that trends piece that's coming up in the paddling buyer's guide. And, I think one of the best things, of course, like we were saying, boats designed more for, use with the electric motors that are coming up. I think that one of the big things you're going to see more of is, kayak anglers taking maybe more of a unified, position on issues. We've got lots of kayak fishing clubs and tournaments, of course, and you've got, a lot of a great kayak fishing community. I think that, I hope that we're going to start to see people, taking more of a proactive role in, issues concerning conservation, regulations, access, because we have a unique voice and we have a unique position in the industry. And I'm telling you, as well as I do, that this sport is it's not only grown, of course, in people, which it has, but now it's really starting to get a lot more recognition in the industry and in, the government as well. But certainly in the industry, more traditional fishing companies are reaching out to us to help them get their messages across, and become part of the kayak fishing community as well. They want to get on board now, and that's a great thing to see because again, that gives us more of a voice, when it comes to not only government issues or these things, but industry issues too. When we started fishing, we had to jerry rig everything from the crate to the to your anchor to everything, your rod holders, everything you had to invent PVC pipes and milk crates and whatever you could find around. And now we have so many different things that come right out of the factory, perfect for a kayak. And we should start to see, I hope, more stuff in the industry like that, tackle and rods, and companies reaching out in the traditional kayak fishing industry towards us too. So I think we're going to get a lot more momentum. Just to that point, it wasn't very many years ago. Very few years ago, that I was begging Ocean Kayak to go to ICAST. Yeah. And they wouldn't go. And right. They were already there with Johnson Outdoors. Right.
They're like, oh, we're not going to bring a kayak to ICAST. And now everybody is at ICAST. Every kayak manufacturer is at ICAST. And
what was it, 2 years ago? The picture on the front of the convention center, freaking 50 feet tall, was Morgan Prominence on a Hobie kayak hooked up, probably right off of La Jolla, and I was like, wow, we've arrived. And it's, it's always the thing that I remember we used to go and people would be like, oh yeah, that kayak fishing thing, it's getting pretty big, and now they're like, so, what do we have to do to get involved in this thing,
Right. And, said if you go back far enough, you look at, I'd come in with a fish and people thought you were crazy for even being out there. Mm-hmm. And people still think we're crazy sometimes, but it's a good thing. It's a good crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's good that people should be a little afraid of us because,
Tom Riley, why do you think people don't want to learn how to self-rescue or take classes? I think it's just a feeling of immortality. Everybody feels, particularly when you're younger, you feel like you're bulletproof, and they just never take the time. It's the same reason they don't take the time to learn how to paddle properly. It's just like, oh, I can go out there and do it. And I kind of equate that to a reason that the pedal boats have become so popular, because anybody can sit on a kayak and pedal. Mm-hmm. It does take a certain amount of skill to be able to paddle properly. It's not rocket science, but there is technique involved. And if you don't take the time to learn how to paddle properly, it's going to be a lot more work. So I don't know why they don't, other than, like I said, I think people feel like they're bulletproof, and they don't. It's never going to happen to me. You know, it's kind of that feeling like, oh well, you know, that's not going to happen to me. I'm fine.
And the sport is so user friendly as well now. You really feel like, you know, completely safe and confident, and you're surrounded by people who are happily paddling around in circles and having a great time. And it's like, you know, and honestly, you know, in whatever 15 years of kayak fishing, you know, maybe fallen out of the kayak 2 or 3 times, you know, and I think that gives people a false sense of safety as well. You know, it only takes one time, of course, but yeah, you know, I think it's a false safety. It's almost too safe. It's almost too user friendly, and you know, gives people a false sense of security. And you know, and there's time, of course, and issues as well. But like this weekend, I think it's this weekend, our local Kayak Fishing Association, Tidewater Kayak Anglers Association, is running a clinic. Bring your kayaks out to Rudy Inlet. We're all going to jump in the water and see who you know, who floats to the surface. But you know, there's plenty of opportunities, even if you just take your boat someplace where you can, you know, in a controlled environment where you can practice getting back into it, you know, dressed in your winter clothes. To be honest with you, you know, we were just talking about these go everywhere, user friendly, super stable kayaks, but they're actually harder to get back into than, you know, a boat with less primary stability. You know, my try just rolls on its side, and I just, you know, lay myself over it and then roll back in. But, you know, some of these boats that are higher off the water and more stable, then you know, then you add in pedals in there, and you add in a fish finder and a, you know, rod holder sticking up all over the place, and, you know, it becomes more difficult to get back in.
No, it's a very good point. And I always tell people, you know, if you are switching from one kayak to a new kayak, do the same thing. Go out there and practice those things. Take the kayak out there with nothing on it and learn the limitations of the boat. See how far you can lean it on its side. See, you know, where that secondary stability is. You know, figure out where that breaking point is, and practice the self-rescues, because it's going to be different on every boat. And you might have to modify your technique based on one of these kayaks that has much higher sides on them. Richard has a question. Do you think fish finder companies should make fish finders specific for kayaks like shorter cables? Yes, I think they should. I mean, you should see the amount of cable that I've got in the back of my Kraken, because I've got that Axiom. And I mean, the cable is like this big around, and it's like 30 feet of it. I've got like 10 pounds of cable. So I have talked to Ray Marine about that a lot. And I wish they would. But the reality is, I think we're still kind of a small part of the market. And you know, do you have basically that's an extra skew, you know, right. You know, extra skew just to address the kayakers. I sure wish they would. The nice thing is you can always shorten the power cable, but you can't shorten the transducer cable.
Yeah, that's at ICAST this summer. You know, one of the companies approached me, and we're like, "I want to get in on this kayak fishing thing," and I was like, "Yep, good luck." You know, what can we do? And I said, "How about make the shorter cable?" You know, and they're like light bulbs went off in their eyes. Like, oh, I was like, "That's all you have to do." You know, some of these companies want to, I don't know, reinvent the wheel for kayak fishermen. We don't need anything special, really. You know, but a shorter cable would be nice. You know, obviously tough gear that can be, you know, beat up is good. You know, but you know, when people try to go and, you know, invent a kayak fishing rod or a kayak fishing whatever, you know, sometimes they miss the mark because they try a little too hard, I think, you know.
You know, I've said that a lot. You know, as far as fishing gear, you know, good quality gear, it's going to hold up better. Right. That's why I love the Siegler reels. They're so easy to tear apart and maintain yourself, because kayak fishing is hard on gear. So you need stuff that can hold up to that stuff. But I've been asked so many times, like, oh, we want to do a kayak fishing specific rod. What is that?
Right.
You know, you're still talking about different types of rods for different type of species, you know, and making it kayak specific. I don't even know what that is, because there's plenty of rods out there. I don't know that you need a kayak fishing specific rod. there's a lot of rods out there to address. I mean, well, let's make one that floats. Okay. You know, I think Akuma tried that, and I don't know how well that worked. You know,
anything you do like that is going to change the performance of the rod, you know, and then that's going to lessen its ability to catch the fish, or, you know, whatever you're going to use it for. You know, I would say take your best rod and put it in the hands of a kayak angler, you know, and you know, show people out there that, hey, look, this is our rod. He's using it. He's not broken it. You know, he hasn't rusted out the eyes. He hasn't, you know, snapped it off. And I mean, again, knock on wood, but you know, in how many years of kayak fishing, I think I've maybe lost one fishing rod.
Yeah, I mean, I got flipped over by a sea lion and sent 3 rods to the bottom, and I got them all back. I marked it on my GPS, and a diver went out and actually found them and returned them, which was very nice. It was about 75 feet of water. Nice. But yeah, I haven't lost much. I tell you one thing, and I've been talking to the guys at Century Rods. What I really like, because if there's anything that gets busted up on for me in a kayak rod, is the guides. Because if you're throwing it down inside the kayak, it's bouncing around. Oftentimes you're so low to the water. If you're speed jigging, that lure can be up and out of the water and jam the top guide before you even know what's happened. So first off, I don't want to see any inserts. You know, I don't want ceramic inserts, because those things get busted up. The other one is there are guides now for your main guides. Not the tip, but that are basically spring steel. I mean, they're stainless steel.
And they bend right over.
Because as much as I travel, I don't think I have a rod downstairs that isn't missing a guide. Because they get beat up so bad while traveling.
Yeah. So, all mine are missing tips because of, you know, all the things that you do to break off the tips. But no, you know, and again, I think that that's a sign of things to come. You know, you're going to see more rods that are just smarter, not different, but smarter, you know, and other gear as well. So. Right.
Jeremy said shorter butts, and that makes sense for some things and not for others. A lot of times, if I'm vertical jigging, I like a rod butt that's fairly long that I can get in that leverage point underneath my arm.
That's right.
I do like a rod I can reach around my PFD, you know, so you don't want it so long that it's catching on your PFD as you're trying to maneuver around the boat and stuff. But for the most part, like I said, I think there's plenty of rods out there. It's just, you know, you just got to fish with the right rod for what you're doing. I don't know that we need I mean, I love the fact that these companies want to be a part of it, but in a way, when they do it, and it's not hugely successful, and then they get turned off to the sport.
Yeah,
you know, I got one of the part of the sport, but they don't necessarily need to make a kayak specific item.
Yeah, I got one of the St. Croix Mojo yak rods earlier this year, and I love it. Great rod. St. Croix is a great company. They make great rods. That's what they do. You know, it's all they do. And you know, the accommodations that they made for the kayak angler, especially like they use this like grip. It's like a golf handle grip, wind grips, right? And it does have a shorter butt, which for a casting rod, these are all like inshore casting rods or bass rods, I like, you know, so that's fine too. They're great, you know, and they're a great rod, which I'm glad to see. But you know, I think they would have been a great rod with any other name on them as well. But you know, it's just good, yeah, like you say, to see these guys getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, having been blown off by many companies over the years, you know, particularly initially, and now to be a more opposite, where we have companies approaching us and wanting to be involved in the sport. I mean, that's only a good thing. And it's things like, you know, the shows, my show, Chat Show, you know, what Chad's done with his bass fishing tournaments, that whole trail, the national championship. I mean, that's bringing in a big audience too. And that's really helping, I think. Richard asks, does your magazine offer a way to promote local tournaments?
Well, yes, we do, Richard. We have the Kayak Angler Tournament Network, and we offer different ways of promoting the tournaments. We have a listing, and on our website we have a special calendar where your tournament is posted, and also we provide free digital edition of the magazine to every participant in the tournament, and we'll be our exclusive media partners. We'll post up results afterwards and such. So you can certainly contact us through our Facebook page or through it's probably the best way. Message us on Facebook, and we'll get you in touch with the right people to do that.
To the magazine, so we haven't really talked all that much about it. But like I said, it's a great quality magazine. It's great photography, a lot of good educational articles. How do people get it? I mean, how often does it come out?
It's quarterly, comes out 4 times a year. So you subscribe again through our website, kayakanglermagazine.com, rapidmedia.com, and you can 1 or 2 years of subscription, or you, of course, the cool thing is too, I love, is that every back issue of the magazine is available online. So if you go to kayakangler.com, you go to the magazine, and then the newsstand, every back issue of the magazine from the first issue on is free, available online. So it's cool to look back through the pages and find things that events in the history of the magazine, in the history of kayak fishing, but also it's a wealth of knowledge there too. We try not to cover the same thing twice, so that's a lot of material, a lot of issues.
Yeah, no, like I said, they're great quality. I said I got 2 of them right here.
Yeah, it's a fun, and it's an honor to be involved, because it just looks great. I pulled the photos and stuff, but we've got a great designer and a great team that works on it too, and it's a labor of love, but it's great to see the results.
Somebody actually asked, somebody's asking something about writers. I mean, I can't find the question now. Do you take submissions for articles, or do you have a pool of writers already that work for you? How are you working that? Are you writing them all yourself?
No, we really welcome contributors, and you don't even have to be a writer or a photographer necessarily, but an expert in your field. I remember the old editor, Saltwater Sportsman, said that you can make a fisherman a writer, but you can't make a writer into a fisherman, and I found that to be true over and over again through the years. But again, you can contact us on our Facebook page, and I can send out to you our contributor guidelines and such. But we really look for people with a regional expertise, who are good at what they do. Photography, of course, is a great addition. If you have pictures, then that almost sells your idea. But always, for any magazine that you write for, I always recommend look through the back issues. And since all of our back issues are on the website, go back and look at the issues. The magazine is broken up into sections. Each section has a theme, and kind of get familiar with the different parts of the magazine: destination columns, tactic columns, rigging, and skills. And think of ideas that would fit in a specific space. So many times people are like, oh yeah, I got a great way of catching bluegill in my farm pond behind my neighbor's house. You're like, well, that's great. How can we make that interesting to people all across the country, or tie in some other ideas that that make it more inclusive to more people. And again, photography, photos are great to provide as well, but always open to contributions, and always encourage folks, because, in order to cover, nobody's going to know everything about all the fishing all around the country. And since we cover the world of kayak fishing, we're always looking for experts in a certain area. Again, you can see through somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. And so we always look for people that are knowledgeable in their area.
Right. Graham Foley says, would you be interested in foreign content? Kayak fishing is pretty big in Australia.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. We've certainly run a lot of stories in the past on overseas fishing opportunities and around the world. And there's so many places to explore, and so many things going on. And again, we can't cover it from here in Virginia Beach, so we need people on the water in the locations to share their expertise.
John Dinez. I'm a subscriber and enjoy the magazine and online content. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You guys also have a Facebook presence. And who's doing all your social media stuff?
Well, our web editor, Alex, Trainer, has been doing that for us. We're looking for a web editor. If anybody's out there, you can check that out on our website as well. We have job openings, dude. I mean, I'm telling you, you know, think about, and you know, you can do it from wherever you live, really. You know, you don't have to move to Canada to be our web editor, and it's a great company to work for, and what a great opportunity, you know. So anybody, if the right person's out there, let me know.
Very cool. Jeremy was saying, and this was back to, this is probably the question I was looking for earlier, do you have riders for specific regions?
Yeah, like I said, you know, not only specific regions, but specific locations too. And especially, you know, we like stories from world famous fishing locations like San Diego or Pompano Beach or, you know, Boston, you know, the places that people travel to fish. But, you know, we also like kind of off the beaten track. You know, kayaks are such an easy platform to carry all over the place. You know, we love stories about people that went to places that nobody's been, or places that not many people have been, but, you know, maybe more people should check out. One of my favorites is one of our photographers, Dustin Duskins. He's contributed a destination piece for this issue on our destination guide about Cato Lake in Texas. And this place, I mean, of course, his photography is phenomenal. So any place he takes his pictures of, you know, just looks great anyway. But it's so creepy. It's like all these cypress trees, and you know, it's like a forest. It's flooded forest kind of place, you know, and you're winding in and out of this labyrinth of cypress trees, and you know, bass fishing the stumps and stuff, and they camp out sometimes just on a hammock, you know, tied between two trees, and yeah, it's a pretty cool place. So yeah, we're always looking for regional contributions, but also, you know, off the beaten track kind of things as well.
That's very cool. And again, how do people get that to you? Is that just through the website?
Yeah, well, we have our contributor, you know, guidelines and everything on our website as well. But if you'd like, I can send you copies of them and talk to you a little bit more about what you need to do, and you know, your ideas. Just shoot us a message on our Facebook page, and we'll get right back to you.
If you have this off the top of your head, Graham says, what word count works best for your format, and how many pics?
Well, what we call our front of the book pieces, you know, our tactics columns, rigging, skills columns, they're 500 to 700 words usually. And the photos, again, are important. And again, I can't recommend enough. Look back through the back issues of the magazine and look at what kind of photographs we use already. And then, you know, just focus your own work on that kind of format. I had a guy send me a photo today, and it was a great picture, beautiful color. But, you know, the fish looked like it was 6 inches long, and the whole photo was filled with this guy, you know, and I mean, you know, he was a fine looking young man, but I was like, you know, this is fishermen, you know, we want to see that fish, you know, fill the frame with the fish, you know, use your rules of composition, if you want to look that up on Google, and, you know, take your pictures, get down low, you know, use your lines, whatever, you know, like I said, you can look that up on Google, but, you know, put some time into your photography. The best thing you can do is go back and research, look at our magazine, look at, you know, other fishing magazines, get ideas from, you know, even fashion magazines or, you know, wherever, outside magazine, outdoor magazines, you know, look at what other folks are doing, and then, you know, bring your own style to it, and, you know, make a contribution. Again, you know, we cover the whole country, and we're not afraid of famous places. We're not afraid of off the beaten track places. You know, we're not afraid of, we like tactics. You know, we have 4 columns in the columns in the magazine on tactics. We're always looking for whatever's going to be hot next year, you know, or what folks are on the cutting edge are doing, you know, and, or what's the buzzword, you know, for the times. For any type of fish too, you know, we cover freshwater, saltwater, you know, bow hunting from a kayak, you know, we've done it all. You know, people so many times are like, oh, how do you define a kayak fishing? You know, is pedal fishing kayak fishing? Is a motor kayak fishing? Is, you know, and I say yes. That's the simple answer. You know, and that's, we try to reflect that in the magazine as well. It's called Kayak Angler, but of course that now means so much more.
Yeah, for sure. Thumbs up from Todd Beveridge. Just want to say hi, Todd. He is, if it's the same Todd, and I'm assuming it is, a good friend of mine that I used to kayak fish with a lot. It's his son, who just had a baby here recently. So congratulations, Todd.
And his last name is really Beveridge?
Yeah.
Dude, that's got to be good for so many like free drinks.
I hope so. He is a young Marine.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice. Well,
good.
thank you.
Yeah, I've known him since he was very young. Like I said, his dad was with me when I caught the first marlin off of a kayak in La Jolla back in 96, I want to say, something like that. So anyway, that was cool. Let's actually have a fishing question, or sort of. Being an inlander, Missouri, I would like to try fishing beyond the breakers. What is the best way to get into ocean fishing for the beginner? I've been kayak fishing for 2 years and get on the water 40 to 50 times a year. Well, first you need to move near the ocean. Because that'll make it a lot easier. There is some options, obviously. I mean, there's some great destinations if you want to make it into a vacation. All along Florida, there's a lot of places. There's, here in San Diego, and most of these places have guides, myself included. And then, there are resorts like Los Buzos that is dedicated to kayak fishing and offshore stuff, as well as Pack Kayak Rentals down in Louisiana, which is a dedicated inshore kayak fishing destination. So the more this sport grows, and you can honestly look at any of the places that I've been on shooting my shows, because we leave kayaks all over the place. Resorts have kayaks at most of them. So there's a lot of good ways. And then the cool thing is it seems like no matter where you go, there is a kayak fishing community now, and you can tap into them as a resource.
Yeah, that's one of the other exciting things that's been going on is so many more places, offer guided trips, and have a fleet of kayaks now, whereas maybe they just had boats 10 years ago. But, there's so many more places that you can go and get introduced by a professional guide into whatever type of fishing you're trying to say. I wouldn't probably, roll your Old Town Predator down to the beach in La Jolla and try to launch through the surf on a sunny afternoon, with your walleye rod and your flasher rigs or whatever. But you definitely want to get a little bit of experience and have somebody show you the ropes, especially going through the surf. Some of these places you're talking about, Jim, have relatively calm surf. I know the Gulf Coast of Florida and places like that, you can get some great offshore fishing there and not have as much surf to deal with. But definitely find a pro guide for sure.
Yeah. And I've always said that even if you're already an accomplished person, if you're going to a new area and you're going to be there for a week or something, hire a guide, even if it's for the first day, kind of show you the ropes for that specific area. So honestly, this is insane, but the hour has gone by already. And we don't want to drag this out too much longer. So, Rick, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I hope you had fun. I did. One more time, if people want to subscribe or anything like that, where are they going to look?
KayakAnglerMag.com.
KayakAnglerMag.com. Well, very cool, man. And again, I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get a chance to fish together again. I need to get back. I really want to fish with that whole crew again. Just such a solid group of guys. Just got to get them out of their ocean kayaks.
Well, open invitation anytime, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. And for those of you watching, Rick did say he would give away a few subscriptions to the magazine. So I will throw the names in a randomizer, and then I will send you their contact information.
That works. Cool, man.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care, Jim.
So thanks, everybody, again for joining us. I will let you know on the who wins a little bit later. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you sticking with us through these kind of confusing things with how it's not posting on the Kayak Fishing Show page. properly anyway, so we're not seeing your comments over there. So we're working on it. Unfortunately, trying to work with Facebook support is not the easiest thing in the world. So anyway, I'm going to get rolling here. I hope you all have a good weekend. If you're going out on the water, please always wear your PFD and hold your paddle right side up. Take care.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that show, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Kayak Fishing Tales. If you want to see these shows live, we do them every Friday on the Kayak Fishing Show with Jim Sammons Facebook page. I hope you enjoyed it. You take care.